So, what is the spiritual industrial complex? Well, this is a term I coined about 2 years ago, back when it was radical and unusual. Now I keep seeing articles in The Guardian sort of questioning mindfulness and other newspapers, the New York Times. So it's become more mainstream now. So maybe I was actually writing under a pen name when I started talking about this stuff because I was actually getting like hate from people when I put it on Facebook. People were really angry and people have spent so long saying, mindfulness is so good. And I was teaching mindfulness in corporations. And I was like, yeah, but we might want to be careful of a few things. Now, if you look up that article, Spiritual, the Industrial Complex, it was called Mac Mindfulness, Yoga Whoring, and the Spiritual Industrial Complex. Good fucking name, if I do say so myself. That article was put out there and, it really got picked up and it got spread around. And I said it was under a pen name, because I was kind of worried about my corporate work, but more I was worried about people just the response I was getting on some of the social media was so vicious that I felt like I had to at the time. But I think people have really woken up to this in the last 2 or 3 years. So again, if I do say so myself, a bit ahead of the curve on that one. So what I was talking about, spiritual industrial complex, was the way in which modern spirituality is complicit in in the economic structures, the ways in which people are oppressed at the time, the way in which it can become just a coping mechanism, way to make people more efficient, whether it's the mindfulness, the yoga, or whatever, the new age kind of stuff, particularly. As a way of making people cope with this awful lives, as a way of making people more efficient in the workplace. Also I was looking at access issues around some of this stuff, becoming a kind of domain of the elite in some ways. As I was at a yoga conference this summer and it really hit me, I was like, oh my, there's this sort of muscly boys and beautiful blonde girls doing yoga, and I thought, God, they're like the cool kids at school. They're like the ones I didn't used to get on with, and now they're running this stuff. And I just thought, and it was a conference, but they're mostly kind of London yoga people, and I get the same in other big cities around the world. It's the popular kids running that stuff now, and it's actually, this is a yoga studio, major yoga studio in London. It's full of bankers, for example. There's one right by, is it one of the Swiss banks? Anyway, it's a well-known yoga place, and the kind of complicit way in which, I'm being really fucking inarticulate now, but yeah, so spiritual industrial complex, worth looking up that article as a term. I think is four big kind of critiques I would have in there that are all in there, and they're all super relevant now, and I think will become increasingly relevant. And the questions for me become, if we're not going to do that, how do we use spiritual practice as a base for radical action, as a base for social change, as a base for a greener, fairer world, more peaceful world? What would that look like? Right, there's the question rather than just the negativity, if you will, the critique. How would that be, rather than just it being an escape or a way of managing or a way to be more efficient in that world, to actually deeply, radically question it, which actually I think is at its heart. I think it really is at its heart if we sincerely and honestly look at it. But there's ways to do that, for example, including ethics and mindfulness practice, engaging with the outer as well as the inner, including social systems, blah 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 blah. So there's more in that. But yeah, a little video on the spiritual industrial complex. So don't think I overdid a video on it. There is Are You a Spiritual Wanker? That's a bit of a classic. That was some of my thoughts on this a while back, and a few other ones. But don't think I ever did a video on spiritual industrial complex as a term. So there it is.